Hi, and welcome back to Hey Doc, What's Up? We've been talking about insulin resistance, and now we're going to talk about diabetes. What is diabetes? When do you cross over from normal to pre-diabetic to insulin resistant to diabetic? What does that look like? Well, I'm a fan of trending, as you know. So many times the only way to really know is to see where you've been and to see where you are so that you can hopefully predict where you're going. That's trending. So if you're always doing your blood work at the same timing under the same conditions, meaning that it's always a fasting blood sugar, it's never more than 12 hours of overnight fast, then you're going to have a true and reproducible fasting blood sugar. You're also going to have a true and reproducible insulin level. And if you now add in a hemoglobin A1C, these are all going to be predictable timings and trending of labs so that it's a true trend of where you were to where you are. So again, normal blood sugar in the lab is going to say less than 99 fasting. A normal insulin is different, male versus female. So again, if you are a male, less than 24.9, technically in the lab, you are considered a normal, non-diabetic male. For women, which it isn't listed, but for women, an insulin level less than 15. What constitutes diabetes? Well, it's different for different docs, but for the most part, it is a fasting blood sugar that is consistently greater than 99. It is an insulin level that for men is above 24.9, for women above 15. But here's where it can get muddy, and some docs will say for women even greater than 24.9. But then you start getting into where is your hemoglobin A1C. That's your red blood cells, your hemoglobin, like a backpack, picking up extra sugar in your bloodstream, sticking it in your backpack, and carrying it around for 3 months. It's a 3-month measure of extra sugar in your bloodstream. Well, a normal hemoglobin A1C is going to be, in most labs, a number less than 5.6 or 5.7. Because most of us, after a meal, will have a spike in sugar. Our hemoglobin will carry some of that extra sugar in that backpack, but that's what it's measuring. If you're always going to have an elevated blood sugar, you're going to have a larger amount, and that hemoglobin A1C is going to start going up. Yes, it will still spike with a meal, but then it will stay higher so the backpack stays fuller, and more hemoglobin is carrying more red bloods or more sugar. So that hemoglobin A1C is a measure that many docs will use to follow at a 3-month interval of time how much extra sugar is in your bloodstream that your hemoglobin is carrying. And for many people realize that each point increase is actually an average of 30-point increase in a fasting blood sugar. So can there be discrepancies in what a blood sugar and an insulin tells us versus a hemoglobin A1C? Well, I'm going to go back to that talk that we had about intermittent fasting. And if you're missing breakfast and you're forcing your body to dump sugar into your bloodstream because you're breaking down glycogen store in your muscle, breaking down glycogen store in your liver, you are spiking a morning blood sugar. That forces your pancreas to dump out a bunch of insulin, but that extra sugar gets put in the backpack. That's going to raise a hemoglobin A1C that on the morning of your blood work, you may have a wonderful sugar. You may have a great insulin level, but your A1C is elevated, out of normal range. What's going on? Are you really diabetic and you just somehow or another the lab missed it on your sugar and on your insulin? No, what it means is that you're fasting too long, you're dumping that sugar in your bloodstream, and you're training your red blood cells to carry that extra sugar. You are actually giving false information to your hemoglobin. It's carrying around extra sugar, and if a doc only checks an A1C, you're going to be called diabetic when you are nowhere near that. You've simply been intermittent fasting. So people who are diabetic are actually burning out their pancreas. Their pancreas may be so overloaded that it cannot make enough insulin on its own. And you may need either oral medication, you may need herbal supplements such as berberine, or many people can control this with cinnamon oil or powdered cinnamon, but in pretty large amounts. Or you may actually be put on metformin, which as an oral medication is something that usually once you're on, it's pretty difficult to come off. Can you reverse it at this point in time? Early diabetics can reverse it. If it's a family history, it may be difficult to reverse. Many people feel it's as much as 20 genes that control whether or not you will become diabetic from a inheritable or family history type of situation. If you only get 5 out of the 20, you may never be diabetic until later in life. 10 out of 20 genes, you may be diabetic by your 50s. If you have 3, then or 15 genes, you may actually be diabetic in your teens. If you are missing more than that, then you actually may be a juvenile diabetic, and that's something that you have from early on. Many people with diabetes are therefore using insulin as injectable. They're using insulin as a pump, which is a small needle that is going into the sub-Q fat of your abdomen and delivering on a regular, slow basis to give you control as if your pancreas was working for you. But for many of us, we'd rather not be in that situation in the first place. So know that your blood sugar is something that you do have control over in most cases. And so if you're not sure where you are, check with your doctor, get a regular blood sugar that's fasting with regular conditions, get your insulin level checked, regular conditions, always at the same kind of 12-hour, no more than 12-hour overnight fasting, get a hemoglobin A1C. All of these numbers in their proper place, and with your timing of when you ate and how long overnight you fasted, they all mean something. Again, trending your labs is huge in order to know where you really stand. So stay tuned next time for Hey Doc, What's Up?